Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a Tuesday night chat with a Muskrat. I'm hanging out here with Mark Blauvelt. I think I say that right.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Close enough.
Good.
Blauvelt. And we've been hanging out backstage talking a little bit and excited to kick off tonight's show. But while we've been hanging out backstage talking a little bit, and hearing me once is bad. Hearing me twice is really, really bad. We'll start out and say hello to some folks hanging out and chatting with us tonight. Ernie Brown and Chrissy Brown hanging out with us. Thomas Little Page, Dan's Creation, Sampy's in the house. Brandon Enix, Catfish and Dreams, is hanging out with us. See Jim, Buckeye Catfishing, Fishing with the Chad. Some folks rolling in here. And probably 2/3 of those people there were all at the meet and greet at Rocky Fork this last weekend, which was man, it was a blast. We had a really good time. Man, if you left there hungry, it was your own fault. There was so much food that we did like a carry-in. Everybody brought some food in, and a couple of us brought grills, and we cooked up some hamburgers and cheddar betters and all that good stuff. So we was eating good, that's for sure. And followed it up with a little friendly tournament out there on Rocky, and turned out pretty good. The bite was a little tough. We had thermocline running around 15, 16 feet from what I could tell. And so made some of the water a little difficult to fish, but we got Big John in the house. Mike Greenwell is in the house hanging out with us. Thanks guys for tuning in. So yeah, the Minnow Dunkers is hanging out with us. What's going on, buddy? Tommy Long. His dad and his partner Roger actually won the tournament. They got big fish of the night with 16.8 pound channel cat. That's a nice channel cat. I don't care where you are in the country. That's a good channel cat. And they won with 3 fish total of 34.71 pounds. And small fish went to D. And
there you go. She's my hero.
Is she your hero?
Oh yeah.
She won small fish. She said she targeted the small fish at a 2.75 pound small fish. And I like the small fish category. It leaves the door wide open for anybody to get in it. And it's always a fun category to have. But man, we really had a good time, enjoyed ourselves out there. Met a lot of folks, from the community that we talk to usually on a weekly basis through these live streams and chats and whatnot. But it's always good to put a face with a name or shake a hand and tell some stories. They don't all have to be true. We're fishermen, we know. We got Chunky Cats, Mr. Elstan Perez hanging out with us tonight. 3+1 Outdoors. Trying to catch folks as they're coming in. Papaw Ed. Let's see. I think I'm caught up so far. Mark, you just had a tournament, big trip out to the Mississippi, and if you don't mind starting out, well, let's do this because there's a lot of folks. We've had you on the show. I don't know how long ago it's been. It's been a while.
It's probably in the very early spring, probably January or February, maybe.
Yeah, I figure it's been at least 6 months.
It's been a while, yeah.
But if you don't mind, kind of introduce yourself. I put in the thumbnail there that you're the current West Virginia Bluecat state record holder. And so if you don't mind, kind of introduce yourself and where your background is and all that. You're no stranger to this public speaking stuff. So you go right ahead and do your thing.
So my name's Mark Blauvelt. Basically been catfishing since about 2002, 2003 serious. How's that? Pretty much multi-species fisherman. I love smallmouth fishing for crappies. I'll troll for walleyes. For 20 years, I was a fly fishing guide on Ohio's Mad River for trout. I was over a Trout Unlimited group. I helped start a Smallmouth Alliance group, and I'm one of the founding members of the Southwest Ohio Catfish Club. So been around a while. Started doing tournaments in about 2003, 2002. That was quite a shock. back in those days, if I went to Tanner's Creek or someplace like that, there was a group called Catfish America.
Okay.
And there was, still be like 15 boats, 15, 16 boats. Jeremy Leach was the first Sea Arc pro staffer. He lived down like near Madison, somewhere down that way. And, he was it. I mean, whatever he did is, he won everything by far. And, that was, when you're first starting out, I mean, you don't know. You're just like, oh, man.
Right.
Oh, Jeremy's here. He's going to win, So, but, you learn from guys. You watch them. You see where they're at, what they're doing. And, a lot of the old timers. Doc had his Hooked on Catfish, I think, website. That's still out there. And so, I talked to a lot of like Doc a lot. Randy Bundy, if you know that name, Randy, maybe not.
That sounds familiar.
He's kind of he's won Rising Sun tournament several times. He lives down in Southwest Cincinnati.
Okay.
He was very helpful to me. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, you pick up here, there, a little something everywhere you go. I mean, believe you me, I was out here talking to the Massengales, Jeff Dodd, talking to, all of the Roy Harkness, Bill Dance is out there, George Young, Hunter Jones, who ended up winning the tournament. A lot of those guys, Carson Pierce, David Magnus, a lot of those guys are B&M. A lot of those guys are B&M guys. So, so they're always very friendly to us and very helpful. The key during a big tournament like that is how you ask the questions, right? You're not saying, hey, where are you catching fish? The idea might be like, hey, I'm fishing some water like this and, we're not really picking up much. Would you go deeper? Yeah, I'd go deeper, right? I mean, you got to take what they say. They're not going to give away all the good info, but after a while on the tournament trail, people respect you. They realize, hey, you're not just after all my spots and my information. And so they'll, when people realize that, even at the club level, me and many guys, we realize that when new people come, I try to introduce myself to them. I try to do that kind of stuff to give them an opportunity to say, hey, tournament's over. What did you do? How did you catch your fish? Hey, every day's a different day. I'll be like, hey, I mean, if I tell somebody I was dragging or if I tell somebody I was bumping, they're happy with that answer. But, where and why and exactly, those are details that they're not really, without giving away the whole farm,
Yeah.
So,
I try to tell people that in order to get information, is don't really ask where, ask why and how. Like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Where did you target the fish, or why did you target the fish there? What helped you make that decision? And that's the information that helps you later.
Yeah, and most of the guys that are on the big circuits, they're very amenable to helping, especially after the tournament, right? I mean, because they know tomorrow is a whole different day. So, Carl Morris and Willie Smith, Willie, right?
Yeah.
Willie's one of the best fishermen we have here in the Midwest by far. And, Willie is famous for, hey, at the end of the tournament, he'll tell you where he went, why he went, what he used. He's very good about that. And, you just got to learn from it and keep moving, So those are all good things, but yeah.
I just seen this question pop up from Mike Greenwell, so I want to try to catch him as I can. When pre-fishing and marking good fish in that area a few days before a tournament, what do you think about the fish leaving the area? So that's a good question. When it comes to pre-fishing, you leave them alone? Do you just kind of watch them for a couple of days, or?
So everybody's got different ideas. So the first thing I'll tell you is that fishing a lot of the big tournaments, I don't have a lot of vacation, right? So you know what? We had one full day to pre-fish. So, and that's pretty typical. We'll get out, early that morning or whatever, put most of a full day in pre-fishing, and we'll fish a little bit, but we don't fish real hard. I want to make sure the fish I'm marking are actually catfish. I mean, that's especially on the Ohio River, even on the Tennessee River, or like in this case, the Mississippi. I mean, who knows what those fish are that you're marking? They look like catfish. They're on the bottom. Are they catfish and just not eating? Are they huge Asian carp? Are they, paddlefish? Are they gar? I mean, who knows? Stripers, just because it looks like a catfish doesn't mean it's catfish. So usually we try to catch one fish and get out. I know a lot of guys, they tie, they got custom hooks.
Yeah.
That they break the hooks off or break the barbs off, and they'll just tie a piece of bait on with a zip tie or something. And that way a rod will go down hard. They'll know it was a good catfish bite, and it'll pull the bait off.
Right.
So they're like, okay, I'm not going to sore mouth them. If anything, I'm feeding them. Maybe that'll keep them there a little bit. Now, the situation we just had in the Mississippi is the river could come up about 12 foot over the last week. Pre-fishing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and half of Thursday was really good. They were whacking some great fish, but I knew the river was cresting. Let's see, Thursday night. So late Thursday afternoon, the river crested, and you know what happens when the river crests, and then it starts going down. The bite just takes
goes down with it,
and it did. I can tell you that we fished hard. Me and my partner Ryan Lawrence, who I fish with a lot, we had both fished. We were at the Cat Masters tournament, 2-day tournament out at Caruthersville, Missouri. So it's about an hour north of Memphis. So big river and all that. Anyway, the river was dropping. So we started off looking along the edges. Didn't have any luck. So if you don't know what revetment bank is, basically on the Mississippi, it's like concrete matting that they lay down under the river on the banks, and it'll come out about 100 feet on both sides. So it's basically a concrete mat. So it's to keep the erosion down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard of it now that you mention it.
Yeah. So a lot of times you'll try to fish on the edge of the end of the revetment, maybe 100 foot offshore, coming down a bank, because there'll be a little cut where it stops, and there's a little trough along there, and fish will hide in that trough. So that's a very common approach. So we did a lot of that. We fished on top of the revetment, which is Snag City. If you're bumping, and you can tell when you're bumping with the weights, because the weight will go dunk, dunk, dunk every time it drops, because it hits and it bounces across the concrete. So you get the triple tap every time you lift and lower it. So where rock, you'll get a double tap, and cobble, you'll get a single tap. Sand, you get like a thud, and mud, you can't even hardly tell when it hits bottom sometimes. So when you're bumping, you'll get better at figuring out what kind of bottom am I really on. But anyway, so we did that. We tried the banks. We tried behind some wing dikes. We tried in front of the wing dikes. We tried right down the center of the river. We tried on the outside bends with like 8 ounces, which in the bumping world is like huge. We were in 90 feet of water, hoping for one pig. Yeah.
Right.
So between our pre-fishing day and our 2 tournament days, bumping everywhere we could, trying crazy stuff. We ended up with 3 fish, 4 hooked, and 3 little fish caught. So it was a rough tournament for us. We were like 60th place out of 90 teams. Like 25 teams didn't weigh at all on a 2-day tournament. Most of the guys who placed caught 4 or 5 fish each day, and that was it. It was a 2 overs and 1 under 34-inch tournament. So it was tough. In the meantime, we looked at it as a good opportunity. We pretty much dissected about 30 miles of river, trying to say, hey, looking at it hard, thinking, knowing that we're pretty much out for the tournament, unless you get a big fish, which could easily happen.
Right.
You know, we're thinking, okay, different time of year, different, you know, let's think about some of these places. You know, there's the Mississippi is a whole different story. For the people that don't know, if you're ever going to fish the Mississippi below the confluence of the Ohio River there at Cairo, you would be best forewarned to buy the latest Navionics map. It doesn't show the depths, but it shows the channel, it shows the channel markers, and it also shows where the revetment is, and it shows where all the wing dikes are at. So
as wing dikes are important
that,
to know in the
you
Mississippi.
figure out the bottom. You know, I mean, that's the safety part that you need to cover. Otherwise, it just shows a big blue. You know, if you use Lake Master or the standard Hummingbird maps or the Lowrance maps, I mean, it just shows block of blue. Doesn't show anything. So the Navionics map is the best. Now, when you get close to Memphis and you get above Cairo on the Ohio River and above Cairo on which is the confluence on the Mississippi, all the way up to Alton, which is just above St. Louis, you'll actually get some depth in there where community edits have filled in the gaps there. So it's a good tool if you're going to fish that. Make sure you've got that. I would also tell you, make sure you have lots of bug spray, because the bugs on the Mississippi are out of this world. You pull over near a bank, and I mean, it's like chiggers everywhere, even though you're still on the water. And then the biting flies and the mosquitoes are horrendous because all the sloughs that are down there. I'll tell you about Asian carp. If you go into a slow area and you figure eight with the boat, you better have your football helmet on. We had about a 30 or 40 pounder just about come through the windshield and about killed my partner. Luckily, he had a windshield. Because he was looking at the two fish finders right in the corner, and he didn't see it coming till it bounced off, and luckily it went out. But a lot of guys will just get in those backwaters. You know, Asian carp is a very popular bait on the Mississippi.
Yeah,
because of how much Asian carp there are down there. So, I mean, we fished all fresh skipjack, but skipjack is still, king down there. It's hard to find shad, but it's easy to find Asian carp. So a lot of guys will just go out there. They'll go into the backwaters. They'll either put snagging treble hooks on their catfish rods, and they'll just fire the boat up and get it up on plane and wait for a rod to get smoked when they snag them. And then a lot of times you can cast for them, or you just do the figure eights until one ends up in the boat. And then
we did all that. We did every bit of that when we fished Mississippi. We had them jump in the boat. We snagged. We didn't troll and try to snag them. That sounds crazy. Hey, Mike asked what kind of current speed you was dealing with down there when you was bumping. Yeah, so the standard 90% of the channel, how's that? Was about 4.2, 4.3. Outside bends were like 5.7, 5.8. Now people think, well, it doesn't sound very fast. Let me tell you, it's moving. That's nice.
And it's hard to move in that kind of current. So the slow water, we'd slow the boat down to 2.5 miles an hour. So
wow, that's still moving.
Try to bump with either 4 or 5 ounces. It would depend.
I would have expected more.
Some places. Well, yeah, it's crazy. The whole river is swirling, and so when you're bumping in places, it's hard to find a place where the top half of the water is going the same speed as the lower half, especially when you're around these wing dikes that are, pushing water into the channel. So what'll happen is, a lot of times the top current will be faster than the bottom current, and so you're trying to bump, and I mean you could have 2 ounces on. And
how do you tell what the top water and the bottom water is doing? I don't. I wouldn't
because
know
when
how
you
to
try to
even
bump,
approach that.
it doesn't work. In other words,
Mm,
you're trying to let line out and it's coming behind you. It keeps coming underneath the boat, or it'll go 90 degrees off to the right, and you're like, what the heck? So all of a sudden, both lines are tangled, even though you're both fishing off one side of the boat. And
okay.
so when that happens, so it's two trains of thought there. Some guys say, well, because the bottom half is slower than the top half, there ought to be fish there. But it's harder for them to find your bait because you're not going in a straight line. The currents are doing weird things.
Right.
And it's crazy. It's frustrating because you're like, I'm trying to get it to walk back and I keep changing weights and it's just
Okay.
not working. And then finally you're like, you know what? Let's just go somewhere else. So
Yeah,
those are things that on the Ohio River, I've never encountered that on the Ohio River. Mr. Greenwell, maybe
right.
he can tell us if he's ever run into that, being a little further and being right below the dam where there's
Right.
swirling water more.
That's why I asked the question. I've never ran into a situation like that, and bumping the Mississippi is on the bucket list. You know, one of those things you got to do at one point or another. So I was just kind of curious of how that works.
Yeah,
Guys, if you guys got questions for Mark, me and Mark can sit here and talk the whole hour and not even touch you guys' comments. So if you guys got questions, Mark fishes all over the country. I know a lot of times we don't have lake guys or reservoir guys here in the shows, and Mark has got a lot of experience fishing reservoirs and rivers all over the country, and it'd be a great resource to have. So if you guys got questions, don't be afraid to fire them away. So,
all right, somebody's typing one out. I can feel it.
Somebody's typing them. Yeah,
I'm sure somebody is.
So we'll talk about this because we mentioned it a little bit earlier when we fished Rocky Fork this weekend. And I'm sure it goes, it's going to go for a lot of different places as well. We ran into the thermocline, and to me, when I had a 15-foot thermocline, I just went less than 15 foot. I didn't have confidence in 25 foot of water that the fish were going to suspend at 15 feet. I just felt like I'd be better off going at 14, 12 to 13, 14 maximum depth and fishing there. Was that the right thought process, or is there a different strategy when it comes to thermocline? Because I think we're all going to deal with it.
I would say generally that's a good approach. You can see that thermocline a lot of times on the fish finder. It'll look like a hazy line. So yeah, if it was at 15 foot, I would pretty much start fishing at about 16 foot. And then I will say that if you ever notice in the thermocline, there's a lot of oxygen in that line you see. So I like to drag a foot or two deeper and a foot or two shallower, and I would certainly cover that area very good. What'll happen is a lot of fish will stage just above that. Now, if you are fishing above that, and Hoover, Caesars Creek, Alum Creek, the saw guy, muskie guys, even the crappie guys. So they'll run, crankbaits and stuff that are above that, and they'll suspend baits. So even at like Hoover for catfish, right? Late, starting about this time of year when the thermocline starts kicking in, a lot of guys will just suspend baits under planer boards, maybe down 15 foot. So even on the Ohio River or big rivers, the Ohio River is so slow with current. Now we've had current up till now, but pretty much from this point forward, we're going to start losing our current. So it'll start turning into a lake in all of the pools behind the dams. You won't see a thermocline, but there's one there, which is why you'll catch a flathead, 20 feet down in 50 foot of water. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. But there's still one there. I have seen it on my fish finder. That water gets so stagnant. As long as you keep getting good rain flushes like we've been getting, then you won't see it. So, so at Rocky Fork, you know, you might have seen a good thermocline there, but if we have a huge thunderstorm, that thermocline will disappear for a week or 10 days before it starts to build back up. Now, another thing that I'll tell you that I learned a long time ago is that, you know, you may start shallow and go deeper and then be like, oh, now I'm seeing the thermocline and now I don't see any fish below that point. And so you tend to stop, turn around, and try to focus before that area. But thermoclines you may hit a pocket in the center of the lake where there's a big thermocline, but you get across that pocket into even deeper water and there may not be a thermocline and there'll still be fish there. So those thermoclines are in pockets as water is filling the lake and it stages in different parts. So near the dam, as long as that water has never been recharged with oxygen, that may be the water that's been in the lake the longest. But if there's a side bay, right, it may push a big bubble into the center of that deep water where there is no thermocline. So don't get locked into thinking, oh, there's one thermocline in the lake and that's it. Yeah, so you need to think about other arms, especially. So let's say at Caesar's Creek, let's say there's a thermocline at 15 feet, and you're there at Fisherman's Wharf, and you start seeing it. Well, if you go to the North Shore Bay, right, where that water maybe pushes in, there'll be a big pocket out in front of it where there may not be a thermocline. So just food for thought.
That's great information, because I was on the other side, you know, where you said that most people would think is, you know, thermocline is going to be the entire lake. So that's great information. Hey, Zach asked, are you planning on fishing a lot of the Cat Masters events coming up?
Let's see here. So we just did Caruthersville. Last year we did Helena and took second place and had big fish. We had a 78 pounder that my partner Ryan caught. That was a great day because I think we caught 22 or 24 fish bumping. I mean, it was like go down 5 minutes, fish, go down 5 minutes, fish. And they were all like 15 to like 25 pounders. And so we had a tough time getting big overs, but I mean, it was the funnest day I'd ever had fishing. And then late in the day, Ryan caught the big one. And so Casey Tudorow, you know, probably know that name. He's a very great river fisherman. He beat us by like 6 ounces. So, but yeah, so we wanted to go to Helena this year, but Ryan had prior commitments, so we're not doing Helena this year, and everything else is like in Oklahoma or Texas. So we're probably not going to do anything else. We did fish their championship at Wheeler last year, but we didn't make the cut to get to the last day. So
gotcha. Hey,
good events, good payouts, and all that.
Say hello to Creole Catfish and says he's driving and listening. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Hey, a couple other questions I've seen. Are you still with B&M? Are you still B&M guy?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
So B&M rods, Daiichi hooks. Can't go wrong with that. Original clear board, planer boards. Let's see, River Rats Reel Repair. If you know Jarrett Tempest, does great work.
Yep.
Obviously, Mike Paul with Never Snag anchors. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Vicious Line. We use a lot of the Vicious braid and monos. It's actually copolymer. Who am I missing? I know I'm missing some other people. So
you've been in it for a long time.
Oh, I've been with all of them for about 5 years now. So, you know what? If you believe in the product, that's half of the tournament battle, is making sure your product you believe in. We talk about this every time I'm on with you, or I'm doing the Columbus Fishing Show, and I'm doing seminars. I always tell people, I'm like, you have got to believe 120% in your equipment. I mean, I can tell you nobody is more shocked than to me have a knot pull through. I mean, I just can't believe it happened, right? Because I'm, anal about checking knots and new leaders and everything. But it does happen every so often, stuff
Right.
like that. But, I've never broke a rod. I've never broke a hook. You know, I have faith in all of my products. So,
Yeah.
it's crazy because, you see it every day here on Facebook. You see, oh, what's the best hook? What's this? Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, the way I fish, my equipment is best for me. And that's what I tell people.
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't matter what you use. I will tell you this: hooks, you know, stay away from all the rebranded stuff. Make sure you're buying a name brand hook. I mean,
Right.
I don't care if it's Gamakatsu, Mustad, Owner, Trocar, Daiichi. When you start getting into these rebranded hooks, you don't know what they are, and it never fails. Sure enough, somebody will post a picture of some rebranded hook, and they'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe this 12-aught hook broke or straightened out." It's like, well, it's not hard to believe.
Because they grab a hold of them with pliers to make their offset, and so they scar the metal.
Another thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe in doing that. I know a lot of people who do, though. So
I don't.
I don't.
When you know about metal, you know that when you bend it, it adds heat, and that makes it weaker. And of course, if you use pliers, you're just scarring it and giving it a breaking point. But that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry wants to know: do you typically fish shallow or deep more often?
Well,
I'm going to say this is going to take up the rest of the show.
It could, yeah. All depends on, am I chasing channels and lakes? Am I chasing blues, flathead?
So many variables.
Time of year, there's so many variables. So let's just take channel cats in lakes. When they're spawning, I take my boat. It's nothing for me to have to get out of my boat 2 or 3 times in a day and unrock it off of, 8 inches of mud. So the trolling motor puts up a mud line, which is a good way to chum fish in. I'll just tell you that. I'm not afraid of fishing in 1 foot of water in my boat. On the Mississippi, we couldn't find anything, and I was like, we're sending it. Let's go right down this outside bend. It's 90 foot of water. I'm like, we're trying different stuff. You cannot be afraid to try stuff, especially when it's not working. And that's experience, right? I mean, it may not work, but now you've practiced doing it. The first time somebody gets planer boards and they're like, I have no idea how to use them. Don't be afraid of them. Put them on and get them out there.
Right.
Sooner or later, you'll catch a fish and you'll be like, holy cow, that was great. You got to get over.
There's so much information out there. There's so much information out there through Facebook, and not Facebook. Well, there is some on Facebook, but the YouTube community, especially this catfish community that we're all part of, there's really no way to really run into a situation that you just can't figure out or don't if you don't reach out. But we do these shows and we talk to Mike Greenwell says he's down for the Mike Greenwell says he's down for the hell in the trip. Let's go.
Yeah, it's already sold out. They already got their 100 boat cap.
No kidding.
So, yeah.
I seen some other questions in here.
We had 90 at Caruthersville. So, but
Sean T, thanks for.
I'm not sure. I was just going to say, I'm not sure I like the boat cap idea. I mean, you're turning people away. I just don't get it. I
don't agree with it. I've seen it happen before, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah. I mean, just say, if we get 100 boats, this is the payout. We get more than that? Yeah, it's more than that. It's that, that way.
This is a buddy of ours, Matt. He says he's fished 3 different lakes, has used multiple baits, different rigs, multiple depths, have drifted and anchored with no luck. I don't have a fish finder. Any suggestions?
So, first of all, I'd stay on one lake, right? Every lake's a whole different brand new puzzle. So I would, for the next 3-4 trips, stay on one lake and I would dissect it, right? So at this point, I'm going to assume we're looking at channel cats probably. So
yeah,
so here's where we're at right now. So if we're talking channel cats, so what do we know, right? Channel cats should be done spawning here in our part of the Midwest. And not only are they done spawning, the females are back in deep water. The males are just finishing up watching the fry for about 6 weeks after they hatch. So they guard the nest, and then they guard the fry. So this is why at Rocky Fork you probably caught a bunch of big-headed males that were skinny, because they're males and they're coming off of that guarding where they don't do a lot of eating, and now they're like, hey, time to start putting weight on. So the other deal is, where's the bait? So
thank you,
a month
Creole.
ago, so a month ago, right, shad was up in 3-4 foot of water, spawning and just getting done with spawning. Now shad's out in 15-20 foot of water. So that's where the fish will be out deeper right now. But pre-spawn, they're going to be in 2-3 foot of water, because that's where the bait is. So if you don't have a fish finder and you have a general idea how deep it is at different places in the lake, I would look for mud flats, just big broad mud areas, and start dragging from shallower to deeper. I can tell you that
Yeah,
on a lot of these lakes here locally, the best spots I ever found were by dragging, whichever way. I love the side drag or side drift more so than troll, because I love facing the fish, bringing the baits to the fish, versus trolling into the wind like a lot of people do, where you bring the baits up from behind the fish. But I would just go out, and I'd just be like, hey, I can get a 1 mile drift diagonally across this lake right here. I'm going to start shallow. We'll go all the way across the lake. Either we find some fish or we don't. If you find some, then you can start narrowing it down, start circling around, do a little shorter drift, little shorter drift, little shorter drift, until you realize that pocket in the middle of the lake may only be, 200 or 300 feet around, but it holds a lot of fish, and because they'll sit in pockets, and you'll go for the rest of the way, never get a bite, but maybe you get 2 or 3 bites in one little area. Well, you better turn around and hit it again. Usually in a tournament, I'll start with a long drift, figure out where in that drift some fish are at, and then shorten it up until I'm just drifting for 15 minutes. Turn around, go, motor back up. I always go out and around. I never go right over top of the fish. I'll go out and around. I'll come through the same and just keep shortening it up so that I'm on the fish. So in a channel cat tourney, my goal is to place and do well by numbers. So, if I'm not catching 30 channel catfish in a tourney, it's been a tough day and I didn't find them. Shame on me. But if I can catch 30, you can bet that I've got enough 5, 6, 7, and 8 pounders probably to place or close to it.
right.
Assuming I found some fish.
As opposed to heading
Other
after
people like to just target big fish. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a numbers game. If they catch more fish, the odds are in your favor.
Right.
Hey, real quick, thanks, Brandon, for the cheddar better fun. We cooked up a boatload of cheddar betters. Man, we overcooked way too much. We threw away the hot dogs and hamburgers and cheddar betters after the event Saturday. It was kind of crazy, but we wanted to make sure everybody was fed well. There was another question. I missed it. I was kind of trying to keep up with everybody and make sure that, yeah, with the same thing right there with Matt. So Matt's saying, set a grid pattern in drifting.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd set a grid pattern. If I'm on fish, I'll stay right on top of them, knowing that you'll never get the same drift twice. So typically, like if I'm running planer boards, or running 4 lines here in Ohio, it'd be 2 per person, maybe 4 lines wide. For channel cats, I never put my baits more than 10 feet apart. For blue cats, I try to keep them 15 to 20 feet apart. So
That's good information.
Here's the deal. The harder you try to do the same drift again, you can't do it. It just won't happen. Right? You're laughing, because as soon as you try to do it, the wind changes or something, and you're like, what the heck?
You can't even do the one.
Don't be afraid.
You can't even pull the drift you meant to do.
Exactly. So what I'll do when I first come into an area, because I'll start right in the middle of the drift, not on one corner. I'll start right in the center of where I really want to be. And then I'll see which way the wind takes me, because usually I'll side drift if it's windy enough to do it. And so then I can see that line on my fish finder, and then I can circle around and try to, in a way, kind of grid an area. But I'm not real anal about it. Like I said, I just try to hit it from different directions, knowing that at some point, you got to remember, my goal is a spot 300 feet around, probably, an area. Once I find a fish, like I said, I'll do a long drift all the way across the lake, try to figure out. And in a perfect world, I'll go from 10 feet to 20 feet. So on that drift, I can figure out, okay, there was no fish till I got to 14 feet. I caught some fish till I got to 16 feet. And then, then nothing after that. So, okay, it gives me a start. And now I'll start trying to stay in that 14, 16 foot range. Every day is different. On a lot of lakes, like I said, I learned where these pockets are at, and I have them waypointed. And every time I go to that lake, that doesn't mean those fish will be there, but there's a reason they were there at one point or another. And so the bottom may not look any different. Could be 6 inches, could be a little patch of sand instead of mud. You can't see it. You can't tell the difference, but it's enough to hold fish year after year.
Uncle Jeep, thanks for the $10 donation for the roll age fund after last week's big party. So I appreciate that. Hey, another question here from Zach says, how much wind does it take for you to side drift? And I was going to have you maybe kind of explain that side drift technique. I know what you do, but it's unique. And if you don't mind explaining it for folks.
Yeah. So before there were planer boards, before anything, what we do is I'll go upwind. I'll turn the boat sideways, put a guy in the back of the boat, a guy in the front of the boat. We got 4 rods on we each got 2 rods at an angle. And then we'll put a drift sock on the nose and one on the tail and let the wind just slowly rock me, across the flats. As far as wind speed, I pretty much need about an 8-mile-an-hour wind to do that. If it's less than that, I'll basically troll, but I will troll downwind, let my windshield kind of be a parachute and push me, and I'll put a drift sock off the back to keep me from going too fast.
I got you.
Dozens of times I have proven over and over again that if the wind is blowing from left to right, for example, and the boat is pointed, it doesn't matter which direction the boat is pointed in, but if the wind is blowing from left to right, I guarantee you the fish in that on the bottom are pointed to the left, right? Just like you go on a bridge and you see all the suckers under the bridge, which way are they pointing? They point upriver.
Yeah.
So even though you don't see current in the lake, that wind is still pushing algae. It's pushing, bait fish up against the bank. So those fish typically turn, and I like to bring the baits to the fish so they see it coming.
Well,
so
they
it's
smell
easier
it,
for them to line up on it. That's just my opinion. I may catch 4 fish coming through that way, turn around, troll, same speed, same rigs, everything, right back up through there, maybe not get a bite, turn around, side drift right through there again and pick up 3 more. So I've learned this 100 times because I keep thinking, it can't be that way. I'm lazy. I'll turn around and just troll up instead of motoring back around. But I can tell you, I've proven it to myself dozens of times where I'm like, okay, I just need to just move on from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to try to teach myself how to do that. I got a real tall sided boat. So it doesn't take a whole lot of wind to get me moving. It's kind of like it's like a pontoon in a way. It catches a lot of wind. But because it's hard for me to control it, I'm more likely to drag into the wind and put planer boards out and just, get a real wide sweep. But you can never get the right wind.
You're gonna catch fish, but I'm just gonna tell you, if you catch fish one way, turn around the other way, because either you'll catch way less or you'll catch way more. It'd be one or the other. Yeah. You'll be amazed at that. They typically like one direction better than another. I've learned that. I see a question here about fishing deep clear lakes.
Yeah. Yep.
Table Rock, Beaver, Norfolk, Bull Shoals. I have fished some of those. I've not fished those specifically. I used to trout fish below Bull Shoals all the time on the White River, but I fished like 10 Killer, which is out in Oklahoma. It's similar. So just because they're deep and clear doesn't mean anything. Catfish will still be generally not line shy. You can use fluorescent lime green or orange line. Typically, if you think it's an issue, you can run a clear leader. I would say my best advice would be watch the thermoclines in the deep lakes and stay on, the secondary flats up above out of the channel. There are times when they'll be in the channel. You're probably dealing with a mix of channels and blues out in those lakes. If I know that area, it's part of southern Missouri, I guess. And don't be afraid. If you're running 4 rods, don't be afraid to run a huge bait on 1 rod, especially if you're fun fishing. Again, don't be afraid to try something crazy. You'll be amazed if you're running we'll fish a 14-inch skipjack with just the tail hacked off of it, a 2-hook rig, and you'll catch 3-pound blues. I mean, there's a reason those blues are big. They're aggressive feeders, and they'll hit it and they'll work on it. Big channels, same way. Don't be afraid to if you're running 4 rods, especially early in the day, and I would run 4 different rigs or 4 different leader lengths or 4 different float sizes. I would mix it all up so the baits are 1 foot off the bottom, 2 foot off the bottom, 4 foot off the bottom. That would be my advice, would be to start that. In a clear lake, those fish probably are more sight feeders than we're used to here in the upper Midwest, where everything is muddy.
Right.
I'm a huge believer in rattles. But I know that a lot of guys get away from the rattles in clear water because they feel like it doesn't look natural to the presentation, because those fish actually can see the presentation instead of zeroing in by using the sound. They're more eyesight dominant versus in our case up here, they're going to be more dominant with their other senses, with the smell and sound and vibration. So, and that's going to be true whether it be flatheads, blues, or channels.
I got you. Country Boy asked, during the warm weather, do the fish target deep holes during the day in rivers like they do in the lakes?
I would say blue. Here's the deal. Once you get more than 10 foot of water, the sun is not on that fish's back anymore. So in very shallow water, and like we'll see this time of year, a lot of guys like to run down to Wheeler or Wilson. So this time of year, it's hot. So you know what? everybody trolls the big mud flats up above the channel during the night, because them fish come up out of the channel and they feed on the flats. And you got about an hour, hour and a half of daylight before it gets too hot. And then all of a sudden that bite craps out. Well, them fish are now transitioning back into the channel. They've fed all night. So, very typical in them. It doesn't matter. Gunnersville, Chickamauga, Nickajack, Pickwick, all of those. Those are very traditional in the summer, or even in the late spring and even fall, where the days warm up and get bright.
Right.
Man, you better catch your fish in them first 2 hours, because after that, you're going to have to work a lot harder for them. They'll be in the channel. So I would say they do move into deeper water. Obviously, blues and channels you catch all day long. That's no big deal.
Right.
And you can catch flatheads at times all during the day as well. So.
Dan's Creation want to know, when you're drifting, are you usually dragging bottom, or if you're suspended, how high off the bottom would you suspend your baits?
If I'm dragging, I have a dragging weight. I use Structure Snakes. That's another sponsor. I use Structure Snakes. If I'm channel catfishing, I always use the lightest, smallest dragging weight I can get away with. 1 ounce, 3/4 ounce. For channels, I would rarely use 2 ounces. For blue cats, I would use 2 ounces or 3 ounces just to hold the bait down, because I've got a bigger float, on a peg float. So I seldom suspend baits. If I'm suspending baits, let's say I'm on the Ohio River right now. I'm thinking about doing this Saturday down in Cincinnati. I will suspend baits. And so I'll just figure out, if the bottom's at 30 foot deep, I'll just let the boat free drift, and I'll just crank up 2 or 3 cranks, bring those baits up anywhere from 18 to 4 feet. And I may take 1 rod and do 10 cranks up, just something crazy. Again, don't be afraid to try stuff. You have to do that. So.
Mark, Catfish and Crappie, was asking, does the speed affect the average size fish? I'm guessing, slower speeds equal bigger fish, faster speeds equal bigger fish or more fish, or do you see a pattern?
I have never seen a correlation in that regard, but what I will say is that some days they are very aggressive, and they'll chase channels at 1 mile an hour. Other days, people always say, oh, typically about half a mile an hour is a good starting point. That's fine. If I'm in a tournament, I'm going to probably start at 0.7 or 0.8, and I'll fish a smaller bait so that they're going to hook it when they grab it. They get the whole bait in their mouth. Because if you use a big bait at a high speed, you're going to get a lot of those nips where they're nipping at it and can't get the whole thing. So the faster the speed I go, the smaller the bait, or at least behind the hook, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A shorter piece behind the hook. Blues are crazy. Now, so here's a good example. I've been, for the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of this, we call it HST, high-speed trolling. So I troll a lot for walleyes, right? Or whatever. I'll go to Indian Lake for saw guys, or Caesars Creek, or over to Brookville Lake in Indiana, or up to Lake Erie even. And it never fails. I'll be trolling for walleyes at 2.2 or 2.4 miles an hour. I mean, that's cranking. And I'll catch 2 or 3 channels every day. So don't tell me a 12-inch channel can't go 2.5 miles an hour and hit a bait if he wants it. So I'm going to tell you, more than likely, you will not ever pull baits faster than they want to eat, other than some days are more aggressive than others. If anybody's done bass fishing, there are days when the bass will smash a bait but not eat it. It's like they knock it. They knock it sideways, or they'll knock a crankbait sideways, and you'll feel it if you fish. and be like, how did I not hook that fish? You know, and you reel it in, and they'll hit a crankbait so hard that the hook's caught around on the line. And it's like, oh, okay. If you're topwater fishing, I've seen smallmouth jump over, you know, a popper topwater bait. It's like, it's like they're not sure if it's real and they're trying to stun it or something. I don't know. But there are days where, you know, when I'm dragging, I'll have 20 bites and I'll land 20 fish. There are other days I'll have 20 bites and I'll land 6 fish. And I'm trying to figure out what the deal is. So you have to adjust. Obviously, if I'm channel catfishing, you know, my baits are going to go from a long rectangular bait to a square bait that's the size of a quarter with the hook right in the center of it. you know, you're going to start going to smaller baits so that when they hit it, they have a better shot of getting the whole piece in their mouth and for a better hookup. And I'll usually slow down a little bit too. If I'm getting those real hard slams, but they don't hook up, I'll slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I think ever since the last time we talked, you know, you talked about starting out fast and then slowing down as the bite dictates. And I pretty much, adapted the same technique. You know, I find myself starting out around 0.8, you know, maybe 0.7, but I might even go up to 1 mile an hour. And, you know, these fish are catching shad and bluegill and skipjack. And trust me, those fish swim way faster than 0.8 mile an hour. And they catch them and eat them. Their life depends on it. So,
yeah. I mean, think about anybody tried to ever cast net skipjack. You'll know that if a blue cat's eating skipjack, he's fast. Everybody's seen those videos on at the Bass Pro Shops where one of their blues will eat a 3-pound buffalo or something in a you know, they can move very fast in a millisecond just to eat something.
Yeah, Tommy here, Minnow Dunkers, and Trevor, and a handful of us are heading up to Lake Erie on Sunday to get after some walleye. So, in my experience out there, we're usually trolling 2 to 2.5, 2.7, somewhere around there. Get after these walleye. So, I'm excited.
I would like to get back up there. I just need a day to do it. My problem is I'm a weekend guy, so it's hard to get up there during the weekend because it's so crazy and all that.
Yeah.
So I was up at Sandusky Bay 2 weeks ago, and there was like actually I think Tommy Long's brother I ran into there.
Trevor,
his name, but. Yep.
Trevor, he told me he had answer. He couldn't remember your name, but I guessed it was you.
Yeah. So it's a small world out there, that's for sure. So
yeah, no kidding.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm trying to take a look at it here. I see my brother 2 stands, fishing's in the house. Yeah, we're going out of Geneva this weekend. Usually we fish a trip this time of year up around Dunkirk, New York. We got a buddy of ours that guides out of Dunkirk, and but I got invited to go along with these guys up there, so I'm going to jump on the opportunity. There's a question from Zach. Do you ever drag baits against the current in the river?
Yeah,
like an Ohio River
so
situation.
What happens is So on the Ohio River, for example, as long as the current's less than about 1.3 miles an hour, you can easily drag. Once it gets to about 1.3, 1.4, you have to pick and choose your places where you do it. So if the current's 1.3, you can't drag downriver. Actually, you can, and we've done some of that. So, but the problem is, you know, it's hard to go downriver and you can't slow the boat down. So what happens is you put so a lot of times when we are vertical drifting, I'll put the nose of the boat upriver, let's say it's 1 mile an hour current, and I'm coming downriver. So I'll put the trolling motor so I'm coming down at 0.5 or 0.7.
Right.
And then I'll basically drop rods to the bottom, reel them up 1 or 2 times. But then I may take 1 or 2 rods and put maybe a 3-ounce dragging weight, and I'll throw it upriver so that I'm dragging it downriver at half a mile an hour. So you can do it. It's just harder to do it because you're going downriver. So it's much easier to turn around and just go upriver. You can pop out the planer boards. Obviously, if you're on the Ohio River, you're going to have at least 3 rods per person out. So you can do that at that point. So so a 6-rod spread is perfect. 2 out the back, 1 short on the side, and 1 way wide.
Yeah, we've thought about that because we love to use our planer boards. We were out yesterday on the Ohio. We was fishing around Ravenswood, and we were slowing the boat down and putting hanging baits underneath planer boards, and so we get a good spread. Actually, it was the techniques I saw from Chris Souders. He actually just did a video, but I watched him do it in person. And so it was pretty neat technique. Caught some fish.
Yeah, that's
not very many.
It's an old tournament trick. So when we vertical drift and there's some current, we use the planer boards all the time. So yeah. So all right, who's got the big dog?
Me. I don't know what she's barking at.
Yeah. Mine will probably start barking soon too.
I don't know what she's barking at. There ain't nobody. It shouldn't be anybody here. Looks like Jim from Buckeye Catfishing is going to be up on the area as well. It says not fishing. Let's see what else. Well, I don't see any more questions just yet.
Well, let's see here. I know there's a few. I know there's Central Ohio has a tournament at Delaware Lake this Saturday night. I know that the Real Deal, which is Jack Height and his group, has a benefit tourney out of I think Craig's Creek, which is about 40 minutes below Cincinnati on the Kentucky side, down in Chad and Dee's home waters there.
There was a question earlier about whether the SWOCC was going to do more inland tournaments of anything like that coming up. I'm going to look outside and see what my dog's barking. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're fine. So as far as the Southwest Ohio Catfish Club, so we're really watching the blues that have been put in at Caesars Creek. So we're kind of waiting until those start ramping up. There was some talk about doing an East Fork tournament maybe this fall. East Fork has a fair amount of flatheads, some channels, and there are actually a small population of blues in East Fork that have been there naturally. I think a lot of the river guys for years were putting them in there. But here at Caesars Creek, one of my buddies caught 9 blues just last week. They were all in that 13 to 15 inch range. He did have one that was about 18 inches. So they're getting bigger. So they're getting to the point where in the next year or 2, 3 years, there's going to be some decent sized blues at Caesars Creek. So you'll probably start seeing Caesars Creek showing up in the next year or 2. There'll always be the Rocky Fork opener. And then, like I said, between East Fork and Caesars Creek, you'll probably see at least one of those each year for the next couple of years, I'm guessing. So just from talking with Vince about it. So
I missed part of that, but I'll catch it back up. Zach wanted to know if you found you a dual axle trailer. I know he's having trailer issues there.
Yeah, so I have not. The few companies I contacted just pretty much kind of blow you off because they've got nothing in stock. They've got nothing. So I'm still making my trailers work. I run a 19-foot Smoker Craft Millennia. So it's a big, heavy boat, deep V, high sides. It's basically a Lake Erie boat. But I use that everywhere. It's a solid boat. it's a single axle trailer. And when I go on tournaments, that just, too many times have I blown a hub or something in the middle of nowhere, and that's a problem. Especially when you start dealing with the high quality roads that we have in Indiana, other states. We like to bitch and gripe about Ohio's roads, but in all reality, Ohio roads are better than most of other states' roads. Kentucky roads are horrible at times on the freeway. Indiana's are ridiculous. Pennsylvania, they can be bad. Tennessee is not too bad. Once you get south, they don't have that freeze thaw causing potholes. So once you get to Tennessee down, people look at you like an idiot when you talk about, oh, how bad the roads are. People are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So they don't have that. So
we hear a little bit about that, especially as a lot of folks have been doing a lot of traveling lately. We had some folks go out to Mendota this year and do some trophy channel catfishing out there, and we heard about the roads going out that way, and then folks coming down here as well. We actually went on Route 2 yesterday out West Virginia, and they, minus the giant drop-off sinkholes they got going off the side of the road, they fixed a lot of that road. It's way better than it was last year or the year before. I swear I tore the transom on my back of my boat. I forgot the transom saver bar, and we hit a huge hole, and it just rocked the boat so hard it cracked the transom on the back.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But
yeah. So I know that in Indiana, I blew a hub hitting a pothole on Route 70 that, it was every bit of 3 foot, 4 foot long. Like the whole wheel went in it. And it was every bit of 8 inches deep. And if the roads would have been wet, I would have totaled my car. That's how hard I bounced through this pothole, and it was there for months. And the next 3 times I was looking for it, and it was still there. It's like, really, how hard is it to fix something like that?
So we had a question up here from Realville. I think Stan was trying to help me out and answer the question, but. Realville asks, how do you adjust the depth on the fly with planers, like running into 20 feet from 30 feet? So I'm thinking he means to be able to adjust the depth, and there's really no way to do that in my experience. And once you set it at 30 feet deep, that's how deep it is.
This is true. The other thing you can do is you can speed up and pull the baits up some. Right. So if you speed faster up and double your speed, right, those baits will swing up off the bottom. So I know guys that will do that. It's the old walleye trick. So you come up, you stay along a river channel, and basically when you come up the channel and get on a flat, they'll do a little horseshoe up there, and they'll do it at twice the speed. And then when they get back to the channel, they'll slow back down, try to catch those active fish right on the top of that. So
one of the things we talked about yesterday,
all about that. They'll speed up going over the reefs or over the corner of a reef. They'll speed up
to get that bait to lift up over,
trigger a fish too.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. When we are suspend drifting or suspending baits under planer boards, we're generally running Kentucky rigs. And so one of the things we talked about yesterday was, instead of hanging, normally I hang a cannonball on the bottom of that. But instead of running cannonballs, when you're floating with the current and just slowing down a little bit, it don't take much weight. We're just going to start running dragon weights underneath. So if we do start touching bottom, instead of hanging up and whatnot. So we haven't tried it yet, but it just seemed like a good idea. Actually, I did try.
Yeah, we've been doing that. Like I said, I normally don't. If I'm suspending baits, I usually just run them over the side and adjust them as I go, and I'll just use the trolling motor. But the guys that do suspend a lot of baits, they'll use the dragon weights on the bottom just in case they're ticking bottom. It'll help keep things from snagging up.
I got you. Looks like Tommy says tomorrow he's going to be at Lake Alma fishing for flatheads. Anybody is welcome to come on out. He'll have plenty of live bait. I think I am booked tomorrow. I'm heading down to the river to fish with Zach in the morning. We got a tournament coming up this weekend. And I wanted to mention that real quick. I know the head count's been moving up and down today through the chat. So we was up to 50 folks in there at one point. So appreciate you guys all being here. But there's a tournament this Saturday also, 3+1 outdoors. I think Larry already had to step out, but it was the kids tournament, the future fishing for kids that these guys have been working on. And, please take time to show your support, to tune in and cheer on the kids in the event. I'm not sure what all channels are going to be. So this won't be just all done through 3+1's channel, the way he set it up. The individual participants will have links to their channels, and you can watch the kids. But I'm still overwhelmed with the support you guys showed for the kids tournament I ran last month. Couldn't have gone any better whatsoever. And so please take a look at 3+1 and support those kids. And the more people we get involved in fishing and care about these catfish, the more likely we are to have catfish when we're older and when these kids are older. Somebody's got to step up and fight for them. And so we got to get as many kids addicted to these fish as we are. So just wanted to put that out there before the show drops off. But let's see. What else, Mark, man? What else you got coming up near future?
Big trip. Let's see here. So, we're kind of in this channel cat lull right now. So I got a few channel cat tournaments. Been fishing up at the St. Mary's a lot, West Central Ohio. Let's see here. I've got one of those coming up in early August and then or mid August, and then let's see here. I'm also fishing Mississippi River Monsters, which is the week after Labor Day. That'll be out in Memphis on the Mississippi River. And then the next week I'll be at Alton, Missouri, which is on the north side of St. Louis, also on the Mississippi. This was the year we picked a bunch of Mississippi River tournaments to try to learn that monster. As a serious tournament guy, you know what? That's the challenge, right? It's like, everywhere I go, it's something new, and I'm, once you get a taste of it, it's like, oh man, I gotta figure it out. So
that's how we are.
Got that going on. Probably fish monsters on the Ohio in October. Rising Sun's coming up, but I'll be out at Alton. Some good tournaments coming up. I think I got another tournament at Wheeler or Wilson for part of the Tennessee River Catfish Club. That's the tournament trail that Ryan Lawrence puts on. So okay. I'll hit a couple of those in October and November. He doesn't hunt, so it's a good time to go. I pretty much backed out of hunting myself. I got some health issues that keeps me from climbing trees now, so I have a hard time getting motivated to hunt from the ground. So I just fish more. I catch more fish than anyway. Yeah, there you go. So there you go. Zach says when you get down around Southern Ohio on the river, you're welcome to get in the boat. We're on the river. Well, Zach's on the river probably more than anybody I know, but we're on the river a lot. Also, thank you, Becca, for. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I got one of those jobs, so I pretty much, one day a week's about all I get to do. So I, in between big tournaments, I try to do some fun fishing just to get my head put back on straight and go from there. So it's a good time. So blues are coming off the bed. So it should be a good time on the river. So
Tommy Long says hunting is for people that suck at fishing.
Yeah, well, that could be. Then they need to sign me up.
Not true. Yeah, there's Chad's link. If you guys haven't, I believe every single person in chat's a big fan of Fishing with the Chad. But if you don't know Chad and D, you need to get with the program. These guys are good folks. They come from the wrong side of the river to come up and hang out with us on Saturday, and it's always good to run into Chad and D. Good folks. We had like I keep saying it, but it was just a lot of fun. I've had a really action-packed month. Made out to the James River, met 2 stands, stand 3, Dan with Green Machine, Ryan Bortz, hooked up with Has Life. We had a great time out there in Virginia for a week. And then, of course, this event last weekend, Saturday, meeting a lot of folks that we talk to and hang out with, and can't wait to do even more. Collaborations and get-togethers as time goes on. So Tommy says he's just teasing the hunters. Chad says Mark and I need to run into each other again. It's been too long. Chad's going to have to get in the back of the line. I've not made it out fishing with Mark yet, so I like to get a day on the boat, see what else I can soak up. I got a lot to learn. Lee Evans.
Yeah, that goes both ways. I learned from everybody I put on the boat.
Yeah, and that's actually 100% accurate. It doesn't matter really, no matter what your experience level is. Other people do things a different way, or might have a different product or a different item or something you've never seen before. It's amazing to me. I don't, I fish a lot, but I don't know near as much as I'd like to. And, at times I'm able to help people out, and it's crazy to me that, I can meet and run into somebody and show them, some tricks I use or some products that I've picked up along the way. And, it makes a difference. Fishing with as many people as you can,
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice there. I know I'll take beginners out, and I mean, we may do stuff my way for a while, but if it's not working, I'll just look at them and be like, "What do you think? What do you think we should try?" I'll get their input. Just because I think it works, especially halfway through the day, if it ain't working, I'm like, I'll just be like, "Hey, here's what we tried. What haven't we tried yet? Where haven't we tried? Let's do something different." Like I said, as a tournament guy, you have to be constantly moving. I mean, when I fun fish, there are days where, I'll troll all day for crappies, and if I don't catch any, I just don't care. But other days it's tournament time. It's like, you know what, we're going to do what we got to do. You got to put the game face on and go. So, keep trying different stuff, different spots, everything.
Lee Evans came in. He missed the part of the show where we talked about thermocline. And so looks like some folks are kind of filling him in a little bit, but he did ask this question here: will the thermocline change from day to day? Or is it something that you can count on for a while, minus weather, without a rain or something to change it?
Yeah. So typically the biggest thermocline is first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning is when, if you're at a pond, you'll see bluegills sucking air in the morning, things like that. That's because overnight there's no wind. So wind chops up the water, helps, aerate the water in certain ways. So mornings are absolutely the worst, believe it or not. That doesn't sound right, but that's when it's the worst. As the sun gets up, and you got to remember what also creates oxygen in the water is photosynthesis through the sunlight getting to plants. Now, as long as plants are growing, they're producing oxygen. If plants are dying, they use oxygen, and that's bad. So when the sun comes up, that will help aerate the water in a slightest degree. The other thing that we talked about is that there are typically, once a thermocline sets up in a lake, it's not changing a whole lot. So, I mean, I can, at my local lake at Caesars Creek or at CJ Brown up in Springfield, I know for a fact that the thermocline will be at 21 feet. If I go to Houston Woods, it will be set up at about 18 feet. Each lake kind of has a different stratification of where, based on the depth and the size of the lake, and where that thermocline is. Like we talked about, you get closer to shore or in front of a big bay that has blown, aerated water into the lake, and you may not have a thermocline in that area. So if thermoclines are deep, like we said earlier, don't be afraid to go past it. If it disappears off of your fish finder, there's a good chance that it's not there at all.
Right.
So the best thing to do is look the fish. Seeing where the fish are in the water column will tell you all you need to know. So
yeah, because I mark fish right at the thermocline, and I didn't know that
yes.
that area that will hold more oxygen. It's concentrated right there, which is attractive to the fish. Because sometimes it's so blurry right there at that line, it's kind of hard to tell if there's fish mixed in with that. But I've always thought that way.
Right.
So
what happens is all the oxygen from, say, 30 to 20 feet is slowly floating up, and it hits the rest of the oxygen, and that's where you end up with a thick layer of extra oxygen right there.
Yeah.
So.
Dale Hayslip said, I thought I had a Hoover Monster last night, but it was only a goose that got tangled up in my line.
That doesn't sound good.
No. I love Hoover. I've only been fishing it. I started fishing it just a little bit the year before, maybe 1 or 2 times. And then last year I started fishing a little bit more. And then this year I fished it a little bit. And I'm really, the more I learn about Hoover, the more I like fishing it. I just,
yeah, I mean,
the wind is always
done well there. Yes. Yeah, the wind is always a problem there. Ask Amanda Johnson. And
she loves the wind there.
Yeah. That's it. So what I don't like seeing is the amount of pressure that's being put on the lake now, especially this year and last year. Really, really has increased. I don't think there's as many blues in that lake as people think there is. Right. I think they're catching a lot of the same blues over and over again. And in my honest feeling, I think that around 40, 45 pounds is where they're going to top out. There may be a rare fish that gets over 50. I don't think they'll ever get a fish over 50. People think they'll just keep growing. Well, at some point, the biomass, there has to be enough food to feed that fish. And if he gets caught 2 or 3 times, he's going to be stressed out. They catch him at the wrong time. This heat of the summer, right after spawn, things like that are all going to take effect on those fish. So I fished Hoover several times. My problem is I don't have a kicker motor. So if I go, the wind has to be, light and variable all day and actually be that. And because I'll spend all day in the trolling motor. And so what I don't like about that is that if I put in at Red Bank in the upper pool, you're pretty much stuck in the upper pool. It's like, oh, there's no fish. Let me run to the middle pool. Well, on a trolling motor, it's not an option. I've got a
kicker motor. I've got a kicker motor on my big boat. So anytime you want to go try Hoover, and we can run all over the place. I've never fished the lower pool, the deep end. I've never fished it.
I fish the deep pool more than the upper pool. So,
really?
There are fish there, but again, depends on the time of year. So a lot of variables there.
Yeah. So, hey, Brandon Enix,
that's do fish at deeper pool.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What are my thoughts on blues at Caesars Creek? So when you left to go on dog duty, we talked about that. So They're catching lots of little blues at Caesars Creek. My buddy caught 9 just last week in one day. They're all like 13 to 15 inches. He had one that was about 18 inches. The state did put like 125 brood stock in there, fish from 5 to I think 18 or 19 pounds, I think. So you may
I
catch
heard
a
something
bigger
like
one
that, but I didn't know the size.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they weren't huge fish, but as they grow them to use them for a brood stock, when those fish get just a little too big, then they'll offload them, and then try to. So they'll basically spawn a fish once or twice, and then they'll move them on, try to catch them in their prime for their eggs and the sperm.
Right.
I think Caesars Creek will be a very good fishery, and the biggest reason is because, unlike Hoover, the boat traffic during most of the year will not allow people to go where the blues are at. So it'll be a good early spring fishery and through the winter because it pretty much never freezes.
Right.
Those will be the only time you'll be able to catch those fish outside. In the spring, they'll be shallow, and there's not a whole lot of shallow water at Caesars Creek.
Right.
And then the rest of the, late fall into winter, you'll be able to catch them in 60, 70 feet of water, which you wouldn't be able to fish that right this time of year.
Right.
So it's going to be hard to pattern them. It's a big lake. It's like 5 times the size of Hoover. So,
yeah.
and it's hard to find places to drag, very few places to drag. It's a lot of rock. Even out in the channel, it is rock, and you break off hundreds of dollars of gear a day. So
Right.
it's going to take a little different approach to figure them out. There's only a handful of good places that you can fish, and there's already a ton of catfish guys that all know where that is. So outside of those areas, that's when somebody's going to earn their worth, trying to figure out and find them there.
Yeah,
But,
I've
but
done
I
good.
foresee. I think long-term Caesars Creek's going to be a better, more realistic fishery than Hoover, because at Hoover, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of big fish right now, a lot of fish in that 20 to 30 pound range.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's an unrealistic number, and the lake hasn't balanced itself out yet. And I think it's getting to the point where it will start balancing itself out as fish reach the top size that they can physically get to in that lake.
Right.
So I think Caesars Creek long term, because the fish won't get pressured and won't be caught as many times as I think the fish at Hoover are getting. I know early on when some of those fish were tagged, several of those fish had been caught more than 10 times and reported. So what's that tell you?
Yeah. That's not counting how many of them didn't get reported.
That's right. And that was only in the first, 6 or 7 years, pretty much.
Yeah,
So
I caught
if that fish
3.
gets bigger, he may get more.
I caught 3 tagged fish last year. I haven't caught any this year.
Did you? Okay, yeah. So
yeah, they were small though. I mean, they were like around 5-6 pounds. The ones I caught last year that were tagged.
Right.
Yeah. Brandon says there's a lot of pleasure boats on Caesars Creek.
Yeah. Caesars Creek, Alum Creek. I mean, they're good fisheries. They're just hard to fish because of the pleasure boaters. Right down the channel, right? Right where you'd want to be fishing. So early in the morning, late at night.
I got you. Well, it is 9:30. It's almost 9:30 already. We crept up on the hour mark, and I was aware of it, but then we started getting a lot of good questions, and man, I can tell you, I've learned a lot tonight, which isn't hard to do, but there was definitely some key things in tonight's conversation that I'm putting in my toolbox, and so I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience with us. And anybody else got anything real quick? We'll wrap this bad boy up. Thank you guys for the super chats earlier. I didn't want to interrupt Mark no more than I did already, and thank you guys so much for those. I do appreciate those. Didn't want you to. Don't want anybody to think that they are not well appreciated, and I do appreciate that. let's see, don't forget the 3+1 Outdoors Saturday for their tournament. And Sunday, I'm going to be up on Lake Erie. So I don't know if I have time to do a live up there. I'm definitely planning on taking my camera gear and shooting a video, get some footage for y'all. Yes, Dan, sorry. I remember there was something else. Dan's got a benefit coming up. And hang on here just a second. I will. Well, we're going to let Dan come up on the screen. Mark, if you want to stick around, you can. If you want to step out and watch for a second, you can. I'm going to post this up here, but they've got another tournament coming up, and so I'm going to let Dan come up and do a little plug here on that, if you don't mind.
Nope,
nope, there it is.
Good.
Let's see. Planning on live show Saturday night at 10 o'clock and planning the meet and greet in October. There we go. So we got a lot more meet and greets coming up. There's actually another one this weekend over Has Life out there on the East Coast. Those guys have got something coming up this weekend, so we watch for that. See. Oh, here we go. We got Dan's Creation. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Roger? And you're sorry, his name slipped my mind.
Mark?
And you just said it. Mark. Okay, sorry. Yeah. How we doing today?
Well, you're doing good.
Good.
So, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Good talking. Mark, when I was able to listen to you, it was good information to listen to. Appreciate you answering my question I had earlier.
Oh yeah. No problem at all.
Yeah.
I'm always available on Facebook or Messenger or whatever. So.
Okay. Sounds good. And you are the what state? West Virginia state record holder?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for Bluecat, it's a 59.7 pounder. About 5 years. I can't believe it's lasted this long.
I've been after it every single time.
Every year somebody gets within a pound or two of it.
I guess I'm going to have to
they'll
make
get
a
their
trip to West
15 minutes
Virginia.
of fame, and that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to make a trip to West Virginia so I can catch my first big fish out there.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to come up, there might be some people in your stream, Roger, that didn't make my stream this weekend, or who don't even know what's going on. I did a 24-hour live stream fishing benefit for Randall's Rhino Outdoors for his wife. She's in stage 3 carcinoma cancer. She's in the hospital, been there a few weeks now. Randy's been having to deal with driving back and forth, taking time off work. And with the losses I've had to deal with over this past year, my mom, my grandma, I lost a cousin a year or so ago. I've lost numerous people, had a hell of a lot of things going on. And it just, when Randy was talking about it and I saw his update video, it tugged at my heartstrings. So I thought I needed to do something about it. So I decided I would do anybody can do 12 hours. For me, like I said, the last 10 trips out minus the 24-hour, hell, I probably got close to 150 hours in with only a couple fish to add to it, not counting all the bait crappie that I catch. But I just thought 24 hours, that would be something that would catch people's attention and be like, hey, this person's dedicated to the cause. And so I did it. Started about 6:30 Saturday evening, and we made it all the way until just after 6:30 Sunday night. Caught 2 real nice. To me, I caught my new PB blue. It was only 8 pounds. That's small compared to a lot of people's, but you know what? It was nice to me. I caught 2 8-pounders. They were about twins. They were about 1.5 inches difference in length, about 29 and 27.5. But dedicated them to Roger and not Roger, but Randy and Tammy.
Right.
But we did that stream. I got my PayPal set up. Started at 0 that day, and we ended that 24 hours with $994. The donations are still open. I will be presenting the final total within the next week on Avid Fisherman's Sunday night show.
Right.
That'll be 8 p.m. Central Time for anybody who has not seen it, doesn't know. But I figured I'd hold it over for a whole week and see what we could come up with, because I have family and friends, and I know a lot of people are sharing this out on their social media and trying to get more donations. And I'm trying to pull up as much as we can. I have cash donations from other people. Like I said, I'm going to reveal the final total. We have climbed since then, and we're still doing good. Hopefully we can still get some more donations in. Brad Caudill, he offered 50% of all sales over this next week to go towards the benefit. If you order sinkers from Brad, go ahead. If you need sinkers, if you don't need sinkers, if you want to stock up for the future and you want to do it for a good cause, go ahead. Go to Brad. He said promo code 24-hour benefit. Okay. That is 24HR BENIFIT. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. But I just wanted to try to add a little more exposure to this and try to put a plug on it. And
it's outstanding, man.
Yeah. So I just try to go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's just a testament of how tight the catfish community is. We've seen it 100 different ways. Folks in a time of need, or in a health situation, or a loss of a loved one or family member or whatever. And, the catfish community rallies up and supports and helps each other. And, man, it feels good to be part of it. If somebody can, there it is. I was getting ready to say, if somebody could drop that link, Two Stands. Thank you, brother. There's a link there for YouTube. And is your PayPal also linked in that?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Stan, for putting that link in there, guys. Yeah. My PayPal link there, I had to break that due to phone difficulties and everything. That live stream is broken up into 3 segments. For anybody who's interested in watching the fish, they're in part 2 and 3. But yeah, the PayPal link is in the description, as well as the video that really got my attention with Randy telling his story and his update on his wife. That link is in there as well. So everybody feel free, please watch that video if you haven't. You'll get an understanding of why I did this and why it's an important thing. And so, yeah, like I said, the PayPal's in there, the link to Randy, and, go ahead and add Randy, subscribe to him if you're not, be able to keep up with updates on his wife and see how she's doing. And like I said, Sunday night on Avid Show, I'll go ahead and do a final the week. But my plan is to any money that ever comes in from anybody, I don't care how long it is, if it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, any money that ever is referenced to that and shows up in my PayPal, it'll go to him. And I just had the thought today of maybe trying to start another PayPal that will be something that can be passed off to him to have access to. So that money will just go straight to him, and it'll always be there for him. But it'll come off of, my stream, my videos.
That's awesome. The PayPal thing is definitely the way to go. The super chats and all that stuff that help, once you hit that 1,000 mark. I actually don't even know how it works. Last week was the first time I got super chats. I don't even know how to even get that money. The PayPal goes in right away, and of course, YouTube doesn't take their cut of it. So when somebody's trying to help do a benefit like this, the PayPal is the best bang for your buck, because every penny actually goes to the cause. So there you go. Send money via friends and family. So if anybody's interested in that, Dan, appreciate you bringing that to light. I've actually haven't seen a whole lot of it. I haven't been on the YouTube a whole lot here lately. I've just been tied up, but
I understand that. I know everybody's busy, and I definitely ended up doing it on a busy weekend where, you had the meet and greet going on. Everybody and their dog was alive, but
Yeah.
I really didn't. I don't. It was one of those things. You don't know what the situation is, where things are going to go, and it was just one of those things. You got an idea, and you just got to do it. You can't stop and wait. And I'm bad about procrastinating and putting things on hold. And this was something that I really didn't care who was live. Hopefully, I got good exposure between the 3 segments of the live. We're up to about 900 views so far.
Good deal.
So, hopefully just trying to get the views and the exposure out there for Randy and his wife, Tammy. Because I know I lost my grandpa to cancer. I lost my grandma basically to cancer, and numerous other people around me to cancer. And it's definitely something that's important to me when I hear about it. And, this guy lives in Southern California. I've never met him. I don't know him any different than I know somebody in Africa or Japan, but he's somebody that's in our community. He's in our chats all the time. And,
right.
He's such a nice guy, and you don't have a wife and somebody that's been your love for as long as he says they've been there, and not have anybody there to be there for you. And I thought I would head that up and try to help him out.
Yep. Yep. It's a great cause. Awesome thing that you're doing. We got the links out there for anybody interested in checking that out. And then stay tuned for the live over on Avid's show. And we're anxious to see what the grand total is and what the catfish community was able to help put together to help them out. So hats off to you, Dan, for helping take care of that. But you do a lot for the catfish community. Your donations with your artwork and stuff is outstanding. And, just hats off to you for being the person to step up and help them out. So
thank you, Roger. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you bringing me up to be able to try to promote this and help bring a little more light to it. And I appreciate the words of my artwork and everything. I still plan on doing a lot more, but right now, like I said, this is my focus. And
yep, understandable.
So hopefully we can get some more exposure. We can get some more money built up for him. And because like I said, I don't care what kind of insurance he has or what kind of bank account he's got. He needs people to see that they care, and situation like this, he shouldn't have to drain his own bank account. There's so many people around the world getting taken care of in ways like this. So
there you go. He's getting a thank you from Randall now.
Yeah, I see that. I pulled up the chat. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do this on the phone. You cover up your camera and not sure what you see, so you got to hold your phone still when you're on screen. But I did see. Thank you, L. Heifer. But I did see Stan saying that a lot of people shared it out, and I did notice that, and I appreciate that. Everybody that's been able to help out and shared my stream, shared links anywhere they can. That's very much appreciated. Said Alicia Barnett, she was there for the whole duration. She helped. She was, I don't know. I went back on the stream earlier to try to find Brad's. It took quite a while for me to remember when Brad was talking about his what he was going to do for us. But I noticed I did have multiple people in there as moderators to be able to share links. But Alicia, like I said, Alicia Barnett, she was there the whole duration. She was a big help in sharing links when nobody else was there to do it. She helped broadcast this, and definitely. We had numerous people throughout the whole day, the entire night, and everything. Tom TSGA 5309, I think it is. He stuck it out for most of the time too. After he actually got a little bit of sleep, but he stuck it out. He was a big help. He was a big morale booster. Kept things going. He kept me. A bunch of people kept us in conversation. Kept things going to where I didn't have a chance to fall asleep or think about it. So. It was a great time. I enjoyed it. I wish I'd have been able to catch more fish for people and add a little more, excitement. But, it was the 2 good sized fish I caught. That was great excitement for me. And I just appreciate everything everybody's done for this whole cause.
Trophy catfish is different for every single person. An 8-pound blue cat for you is your trophy and PB. I know that Mark Catfish and Crappie came to Ohio. He caught him an 8-pound blue cat, and he's tickled to death. That's his PB blue cat, and so ain't nothing to be ashamed of there.
We have we definitely have bigger in the lake that I was fishing, and I have been broke off by bigger. But we're gonna get there. I'm gonna get there eventually. I'm gonna get to those bigger cats, and I'm gonna get to enjoy what some of you guys get to enjoy too. But like I said, those 8-pounders, they were nice. I got one on 2 different rods, and it was nice.
Tammy says she is blown away by the community and the love that they've received, and it's just proud to be a part of something like that. It says I'd hope for prayers, and that Dan did this for us. Unbelievable what you did for her spirits. So
really, I'm in shock. I'm just happy that it had this kind of effect on Tammy, and I hope it brought her spirits up. And a lot of times, sometimes that's what it takes, and getting somebody's spirits up. It kind of seems like getting somebody's spirits up kind of helps with their physical health as well, especially in a time like this. So hopefully that helps.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. All right, buddy. Well, I'm going to wrap things up here. Mark, you got anything else for us? No. I appreciate the opportunity. Give me a shout anytime you want me to come back. I can always, I can ramble for hours on about anything. You fit right in, buddy. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Yes, it's always a good time.
All right, Mark, nice meeting you. Roger, thanks. It was good to talk to you again, and appreciate you letting me talk to everybody and share this word out. But I appreciate everything, and y'all have a good night. Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you guys here next week, next Tuesday night, same cat time, same cat channel. See ya. All right, good night. See you guys.